Hi again. I'm Dionco, professor at Mary Hill School of Theology, and this is part 2 of the recording of I Am Who Loves the Prophets and Exile Devotional, a conversation with Professor Marc H Ellis. In this video, you will be listening to our special guest celebrate Professor Ellis's birthday and also talk about their encounters with him and how those encounters shape their own view of the prophetic. What does it mean to be Jewish in our time, and also what it means for their own context.
Greetings from the little town of Bethlehem in Palestine. My name is Mitri Rahib. I am the founder and president of Dar al-Kalima University College of Arts and Culture. It's the first and only university that focuses on arts and culture here in Palestine. I'm a Lutheran pastor, served for 30 years at Christmas Lutheran Church, and I'm a Palestinian contextual theologian. I would like today to wish my good friend Marc Ellis the happiest 68th birthday. Marc, I wish you good health, joy, strength for the coming years. Actually, it was Marc who introduced me to Jewish liberation theology through one of his first books. Marc was one of the first Jewish American theologians to get involved with Middle Eastern theologians and with Palestinian theologians, tackling issues as how to deal with the Holocaust and what is the role of Judaism today, and how does Judaism today relate to the Israeli occupation of the West Bank, militarism, etc. What I really appreciate with Marc is that Marc calls things by name. He sees the reality and he talks about the reality of the world as it is, without beautifying things, without sugarcoating things. And I think this is really the prophetic element in Marc's work. I know it's not easy to be prophetic in this modern time. And I know it's not easy to be prophetic within Judaism today. But for me, Marc is the continuation of that prophetic message that we see in the Hebrew Bible through the New Testament. And he brings that to our modern world. So again, from Bethlehem, happiest birthday, Marc, and hope to see you soon.
Hello Coy, hello Marc, and hello to all of your students. It's great to be taking part in your course, and first of all I want to say happy birthday to Marc. And Coy asked me to say just a few words about who I am and how Marc has influenced me over the years. I guess I've been writing now about Israel-Palestine from a Jewish place of solidarity with the Palestinian people for about 10 years. And that journey began a long time before that, I guess when I was a student at Manchester University, when I was trying to understand what was going on with the first Intifada in the late 1980s. And then from there, it was a lot of thought and a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, and a lot of reading. And I don't think I would have been able to get to the place that I've got to today if I hadn't read the work of Marc Ellis over the last few decades. Marc has been incredibly influential in my thinking, and he helped me to really understand what it means to be Jewish in the 21st century, what it means to understand what it is to be Jewish after the Holocaust and after the creation of the State of Israel. And the reason why I'm particularly drawn to Marc and his writing is that he speaks in a very distinctly Jewish way. To be more precise, he has a very Jewish prophetic sensibility. That's really attracted me to him all the way through all of his work. And I guess once you read Marc, your eyes are opened and it's very hard to close them again. So Marc has been very influential. I now count him as a friend and a constructive critic. He's always generous and challenging and perceptive, but very supportive, very generous as well with his time and his thinking. And I think many people who stand in the place that I do now when it comes to Palestine, we wouldn't have got here without Marc. We owe him a great debt of honour. And I'm quite certain that Marc's writing and his ideas are going to influence how Jews around the world think about what is their identity, what does it mean to be Jewish in the 21st century. I think Marc is hugely influential, hugely relevant, and he will continue to be so. So do enjoy the course, have a great time. I wish I could be there with you. And once again, happy birthday to Marc.
Hello everyone, my name is Ann Zhou, and I'm Professor of Theology and Culture at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois, USA. And I just want to say thank you for inviting me to send my brief message to Professor Marc Ellis. So Marc Ellis, Professor Ellis, I just want to say happy birthday to you, and also thank you for all the work that you've done in bringing about the importance of being prophetic and the prophetic voice, even as it struggles to find itself in being in solidarity with all the communities who struggle in the midst of historical legacies of structural and systemic oppression. So your voice, your work has meant a lot to me, as I think we had shared a couple of times in passing, the way that I struggled for a long time to find my identity, to find my prophetic political voice, political theological voice as a Korean American in the diaspora, looking back towards my place of birth, and at the same time trying to make linkages and alliances in solidarity with others who struggle against legacies of colonial projects, as in Palestine. Your work was really important because it bore witness to the ways that so many of us, while it's not too difficult to be prophetic and to go against something, but to go against something of what one holds to be very dear, what gives meaning to who we are as a people. You really exemplified the kind of integrity in being critical, at the same time being tender toward those traditions that are very important to who we are and have been pivotal to our formations. So thank you so much. I know it was not an easy thing for you, but a lifelong commitment to be with those who struggle against systems and structures, even if it meant being critical of our own people, of our own traditions. So I hope I get this pronunciation right. L'chaim Tovin Ulu Shalom. Shalom, my friend, and I'm wishing you many more birthdays to come. Much love.
First of all, very, very happy birthday, Professor Ellis. I am very, very happy to be here. My name for everyone else is Santiago Srawotsky. I am originally from Argentina, and currently I am a professor in Jewish Studies in New York. I am one of the honored people who can say that Marc Ellis is my mentor. I have known him for over 15 years, and since I studied with him a long time ago, he has become not only an inspiration for his writings, but also a support for all the work I do. I was asked to talk a little bit about the prophetic and what this prophetic actually means for me. What Marc Ellis has done was something completely novel between Jewish studies, was the possibility of going beyond the limits of what we call Europe and the US, and engaging with thought that was coming from the global south, from people who were struggling for their lives, people who were struggling against colonization, people who were struggling against their invisibilization, people who were struggling for their human rights. And he understood that this was not actually something that was an opposition to Judaism, but actually he was recovering what he called the indigenous. He was recovering what was the core of the Jewish tradition, which is the prophetic. And I learned from him this. I learned from him that the only way to be a coherent, the only way to be a Jew of conscience today in the 21st century was to engage with those people struggling for justice around the world. Sometimes that means that we are going to be against odds of what other people think Judaism is, because what Marc Ellis is trying to do is to recover the depth of a tradition that right now has been abandoned in Israel-Palestine, but not only, throughout the world. So I want to join Dr. Ellis, I want to join Professor Dionco, and everyone there to celebrate the birthday of someone who has given us the possibility of thinking from a complete different place. Someone who has been coherent and has paid the price for his coherence. So I am extremely honored to be called his students. I am extremely honored to be able to actually follow his footsteps and learn from him, not only from his text, but also from the generosity that the prophetic brings in Marc Ellis. So let me join your celebration from New York to the Philippines, just trying all of us to honor, all of us to celebrate, all of us to share the good news that Marc Ellis has gone one run around the sun again, and we can come with him and we can keep being influenced by his thought that now is more necessary than ever. So thank you for this opportunity, and goodbye everyone from New York.
My name is Xingyun Choi. I'm Baptist Missionary Training School Professor of New Testament and Christian Origins at Colgate Rochester Crozer Divine School in New York. As a lifelong student of the New Testament, I had regarded Jewish as only ancient and as part of Christian, just like many other Christians. But later I learned how often Christian biblical scholars explicitly and implicitly promote anti-Semitism in their interpretations. For example, by de-Judaizing Jesus, his disciples, and Paul. Also, dominant Western scholarship tends to ignore that only Christian writings were written in the Roman imperial context and rarely engage present empires, including the USA. I was born in South Korea, a formerly colonized country, and now a sub-empire in the neo-colonial relationship with the USA. I currently live in the periphery of the US empire. In such a social location, I imagine Jesus' life and ministry in Roman-occupied Palestine. I view Paul as a colonized Jew. I read early Christian writings as produced in the process of forming their identities relating to Jewish tradition and also negotiating the Roman Empire. I met Dr. Marc Ellis in Mexico City some years ago. I had known him as a Jewish liberation theologian, but I was fascinated by his ideas of the Bible, biblical interpretation, and Christian faith. Dr. Ellis and I shared the view of Paul as a Jewish prophet and an apostle to the nations conquered by the Roman Empire. This engagement has led me to think about what the prophetic means for me. We Christians often talk about prophetic preaching or prophetic ministries. I don't think we own the prophetic because it is the Jewish indigenous. The Jewish prophet witnesses the end of ethical Jewish history, not only in the Holocaust, but also in Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people. Embodying the prophetic may lead to exile that leaves markers of pains and traumas deep inside the prophet's body. Can I embody the prophetic while speaking truth to power and even against my people, which may result in alienation, persecution, and exile? Is this experience only what the Jewish prophets experience? Dr. Ellis highlights that as far as empire exists, the prophets, even when defeated, continue to appear. In Exile, he concentrates on the prophetic interior and hears the voice of the other within himself. It leads him to see a glimpse of light in the new diaspora, an alternative community of exiles from all nations and religions. I don't think this vision implies Jewish universalism. In this prophet sharing, we bring our particularities and struggles for our common cause. I'm humbled to join this new prophetic community Dr. Ellis is envisioning. Today, I'm delighted to join all of you in celebrating his 68th birthday. Mark, I'm grateful to you for sharing your vision, inspiration, and courage with me and with others. Also, I appreciate that you have encouraged me to find my voice in the diasporic community of prophets. You are the seer of the dawning light, who ushers light gatherers to a more just and peaceful world. You are surrounded by those who honor your life and your dedicated work. I rejoice with you on your special day. I wish you good health and shalom during this pandemic.
Hello, friends, and first and foremost, happy birthday, Professor Ellis. It's such a great day to celebrate you and who you are and what you do. Friends, my name is Claudio Carvalho. I'm from Brazil and I live in New York City. I'm glad to join you all in the Philippines, a place that I went once and visited a few places and loved the place, and the people is amazing and with very bad politicians, but it's a wonderful country. I wanted to honor Professor Ellis because Professor Ellis is a intellectual of the greatest magnitude, someone who can think so thoroughly, and it's so expensive, and in his thinking and also his heart, that it is hard to match him with any other scholar that I know. Professor Ellis was introduced to me by another friend, common friend, Santiago Slabodsky, and the first time I saw his writings was for a book that I edited on liturgy, and it was amazing the first time I saw it, and from there I started reading more and more, and I'm still reading. I'm still trying to catch up with everything that he does. And one thing that marked me deeply was once he wrote, what if religions would stop their worship until justice happens? And that question is still with me. Because I think if we cared for justice to the point of life, we would work on it way more than what we actually do. And there's so many things that comes out of it that I still trying to grapple with. But not only that, Professor Ellis have given his life to another people. As a Jew and a Jewish scholar, he has given his life to the Palestinians. And he has such a staunch commitment with the Palestinians that had cost him jobs, positions, invitations, because he is what religious discourse should be: radical, prophetic, and not giving any space for devious communications and ways of negotiations. Professor Ellis has always been on the side of the Palestinians, and that means that he's on the side of all of those who are in the margins. And I have barely seen anybody who has this strong sense of love and commitment for a people, to the point of being neglected by and pushed away and damned by a lot of his own people. So I have this immense admiration for Professor Ellis, for his capacity to think, for his enormous solidarity with the Palestinians, his staunch voice for those who are in the margins, and for the ways in which he loosens our tongues, he makes us wonder, he expands us, even with his pictures, he makes us think and feel differently. And now, lately, the later style of Professor Ellis is his paintings, which are getting more and more absolutely amazing. And I have the gift to have his paintings in my upcoming book. So I have to say that Professor Ellis is one of the most important intellectuals in our time, and one of the most important person to me. So I'm so glad you're all celebrating him and his work and his life, because he's worthy of our celebration. Thank you for this opportunity, and blessings to you all.
Happy birthday to Dr. Marc Ellis from Dr. Suzanne Schultz. I am an Old Testament professor at SMU's Perkins School of Theology, and I know Marc since spring 1991, when I was working on my STM thesis at Union Theological Seminary, which was on Jewish and Palestinian liberation theology. So I gave him a call, and he invited me up to where he was teaching at the time, Mary Knoll School of Theology. And I had, at this point, never left Manhattan, having dropped from the sky, 6 months earlier. And so I found my way El Norte and interviewed him in his office. And then he invited me for lunch, and I met his family. And we have been in touch ever since. And I want to thank Marc for his advice, his collegiality, his friendship, and his writings and teachings. I have invited him to some of the colleges where I taught in the past, and it was always a pleasure. And just last week, I texted him about this amazing information I read about in the New York Times. Title was Israeli planes arrive for first joint military exercises on German soil. The military pilots, the jet fighter pilots from Israel, did exercises together with the German jet pilots who needed the teaching from the Israelis, and I just couldn't believe it. And I asked Marc if we're living in the past, and he said maybe they live in the past. And true to form, always turning around the thinking. And now we ponder who's living in the past, the present, and the future. But one thing is for sure, we celebrate your birthday, Marc. Happy birthday. Here's for more to come. I hope you have a nice party at the beach. Keep making your walking videos and share them with us, and be well. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Marc. It's a pleasure to give this greeting. My name is Dr. Christopher Stratman. I'm in Naples, Florida, and I teach at Florida Southwestern State College and for the Collier County Public School System. I first met Marc when I was a young assistant professor of English in Waco, Texas, and I had just landed there and was a little bit out of my element, and Marc sort of took me under his wing, and really showed the kind of hospitality and generosity that he's sort of legendary for. Marc's work has been incredibly important to me. He, helped me to understand not only Judaism but also Catholic Christianity in a deep and profound way that I really hadn't thought of before. He was able to show me something about how interpretations need to be applied to new contexts, and in doing so produces new insights. So Marc really, what strikes me about him is his fearless and uncompromising intellect, coupled with a profound compassion and for other people, for individual human beings. You don't see that often in an academic, but Marc is really one of a kind. Marc, your friendship means the world to me. I'm so happy that this event is taking place. It sounds like a wonderful occasion, and I'm very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Many Jews are already in the new diaspora, finding life among the ruins, but naming the final exile in the new diaspora is still in process. Naming the new diaspora reality is as difficult as the exile itself. It is like anticipating, then hearing, the final bell tolling. Exiles tend to delay what will come soon enough. Many Palestinians reside in the new diaspora as well. Here, Jews and Palestinians forge important bonds of justice-seeking and mutual support. Sometimes in exile within Israel-Palestine, and often outside it, the lessons of the harsh history between Jews and Palestinians are hashed out. Aspects of a divisive history are acknowledged and overcome. A revolutionary forgiveness is approached. Mutual solidarity becomes the watchword. An injury to one becomes an injury to the other, who is no longer other. The hope of many was that revolutionary forgiveness could begin in Israel with a confession from Israel and move to a program of sharing Jerusalem, joint governance, shared education, integrated policing and grocery shopping. In theory and practice, a shared life of Jews and Palestinians. For our permanent moment, at least, the shared life has begun in the new diaspora. Will that witness one day become a homecoming? Hi Marc, happy birthday. Christine Pei is here. It has been a year since you visited Denison, challenging a lot of faculty and students to rethink about Jewish diasporic theology and Holocaust theology and Jewish-Palestinian solidarity. So the paragraph that I just read is my all-time favorite. It challenges me, and it challenges me, yes, but it also makes me dream of new diaspora and revolutionary forgiveness. In the wake of Black Lives Matter movement, and Palestinian, African American, Jewish American, and Asian American solidarity, I see the birth of revolutionary forgiveness. So I feel like you're a very successful prophet. Your prophecy may come true one day. Happy birthday and congratulations on the publication of your new book. I look forward to reading the book. I'm ready to be inspired by you and also challenged by you. Your theology has been very important for my own work on the intersection of feminist theology and ethics and religion and Asian American studies and U.S. militarism. So as you may remember, I take Asian women's bodily experiences of U.S. militarism as a site to produce knowledge about war, militarism, and most importantly, peace. So revolutionary forgiveness has been an inspiring concept for me to think about reconciliation and forgiveness in the post-conflict zone. And I want to continue to read your books and continue to be in conversation with you. So happy birthday. This is my song for you. Happy birthday to Mark. Happy birthday to Mark. Happy birthday, Prophet Mark. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Mark. I hope this surprise makes it. I've been busy with the startup of our semester in the midst of a global pandemic, so I had to shove it into the background. I just wanted to take a few minutes to say thank you. Thank you for all you've been to so many of us as an inspiration, as a scholar, as a prophetic voice. For many years, you were a legend for me. You were the author of Toward a Jewish Theology of Liberation. You were a name associated with the Marinol Order. You were a name associated with my alma mater, Union Theological Seminary. Yet I'd never had the opportunity to meet you. And then I got involved with the political theology group unit at the American Academy of Religion. And then through a mutual friend, Santiago Slobodsky, whom I'd met as a doctoral student at Princeton, we got to meet. He introduced us, and within minutes of having met you, you did me a very huge favor. You agreed to contribute an essay, the opening essay, to this monstrosity, the T.N.T. Clark Handbook of Political Theology. So thank you. You set a tone for the volume. You encourage others to be part of this project. And you didn't flinch. You didn't hold back. You were always a critical voice in the best possible way that challenged me and continues to challenge me to produce great work. Then through you, I also got invited to the gathering to celebrate your work in Dallas. And I brought my son, and I got to see you with your two sons, your grown sons. My son was 8 or 9 at the time, and he was welcomed and accepted at this gathering. And it just showed me a very human side, which in a very good way helped deflate the myth that I had built up of who Marc Ellis is and was, and helped me appreciate you all the more as a wonderful human being, a father, a mentor, a teacher. My only regret is that I didn't meet you sooner, that I never studied under you, but I have appreciated all of your wisdom over the years, and since I've met you, your candor, your openness, I've even turned to you for professional advice, and you have been unfailing. So thank you. God bless you. Have a happy birthday. And once again, thank you for all you've done for me, for the Academy, and for so many of us who want to be carrying the torch of prophetic criticism in this world. God bless you.
Happy birthday, Mark! Woohoo! Congratulations! You made it! Definitely not granted these days, huh? So, I want to say thank you, first and foremost, for the opportunity to be part of this wonderful opportunity to congratulate you and celebrate with you, even though not quite in person, but it still counts. So celebrating with you your birthday, and having really this very special and honorable opportunity to share with all these other people around here what having met you means to me. So my name is Ori. Hi. And to those who don't know me, I live in Israel, and I have been Mark's student in 2 different occasions. Mark has been my thesis advisor in Costa Rica and also my professor in Innsbruck in Austria. And during both of these opportunities, Mark has left quite an impression on me. So in addition to the intellectual rigor, and of course the idea of the prophetic that in many ways has really brought a new element into my life as an Israeli Jew. Mark has also been very Mark, you have been very inspirational for me. Be it your idea of what justice is and what it requires to pursue it, and how far we as individuals ought to go in order to serve it. So for this, I'm very grateful. In many ways, it really shaped the way I experience my reality as an Israeli Jew, and also academically, the way I expand my worldview and look at things and investigate. Having said that, Mark, you have been more than just an intellectual or an academic inspiration. You have also been a personal and also a spiritual mentor for me. You have always been there, even after years of not being in contact. If I were to sit down and write an email to you, you have always been there for me, greeting me with open arms and an open heart. Always have something smart and sharp to say. Always have a good advice to offer, be it on the professional level or the personal one. And this has made you a very special person in my life. And for that, I am very, very grateful. So I hope that you will have many, many more years of investigation, be it an external one or an internal one, and many years of just enjoying the wonder of being the way you know. So thank you, Mark. Thank you for everything you have and you still do offer. Much love. Happy birthday. Ciao. See you in 5 minutes.
My name is Gustavo Henrique. I come from Brazil. I am a religious missionary. I belong to the Congregation of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, CICM, and I am a seminarian. I am in the 4th year theology. My first encounter with Dr. Ellis happened last year when he came to the Philippines in order for him to launch his latest book at the time, Finding Our Voice. And he happened to teach a subject in the seminar at MST. And fortunately, I was enrolled in that seminar and also in that subject. So at first, that was something totally new to me because that was the first time that I met a Jew. So I didn't really know what to expect. But I can say that after my encounter with Dr. Ellis, my ideas regarding Jews completely changed. I was really moved, I was really touched by the depth of his thoughts on the prophetic, most especially. One of the things that touched me most about Dr. Ellis's thoughts on the prophetic is his ideas about the prophetic exile and most especially the prophetic failure. You know, in a world when sometimes we hope for better things, we hope for a better future, here comes Dr. Ellis, who was telling me that, you know, if you want to be engaged in the prophetic, if you want to be engaged in justice and liberation, integrity of creation and whatsoever, know that you will fail. So that was something that really struck me. So the assurance that the prophetic will fail, that we will all fail. But at the same time, the prophetic is something which you cannot escape from. Although you know that you will fail, you cannot escape from the prophetic. Therefore, you just have to embody it. You just have to live it out. So this kind of thought is of big depth, you know, to me. and it really strikes me to my heart. So thank you very much, Dr. Ellis, for being part of my life. Thank you very much for my encounter with you on the occasion of your birthday. I wish you all the best. I wish that God may always bless your life and your prophetic journey, and that He may always keep you in good health. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. My encounter with you last year has been a great source of inspiration to my life and to my vocation. And I am so grateful and so thankful to you.
Everybody! Hello, everybody! My name is Aaron Ellis. I am the eldest son of Marc Ellis, and I'm calling in to wish my father a very happy birthday. Thanks so much to Professor Choi for setting this up. I'll just take a moment to reflect on how my father has influenced, how his life, his work has influenced me in my current phase of life. I wrote about it a little bit, actually. I spoke about it at his Festschrift conference in Dallas, and then wrote a little bit about it for the Festschrift publication. And it had to do with his work being beyond the boundaries of writing. When I was growing up, we used to have, during Shabbat, which is the Jewish Sabbath, we would have themes like baseball Shabbat, dinosaur Shabbat, any and all kinds of Shabbats. And we would basically brought our whole lives. We didn't treat the Sabbath as different from our lives. We took it as a way to celebrate our lives. There was no distinction between the work of observing the Sabbath and the playfulness of the life that we live together. And I think that throughout my life, I've taken from my father the idea that the work is not limited to the work, that the real work is transcending the work. And part of that struggle in the work is maintaining a sense of joy, a sense of celebration, and a sense of light, mirth, laughter, even amidst all of the destruction that we inherit from history and that continues unabated. So it's fitting that I would be sending a celebratory message on a celebratory day, because a lot of my father's life's work influence on me has been one that embraces the joy amidst it all. And now we'll turn it over to my one and only brother Mang, Isaiah.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Professor Choi. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much, Aaron, for tossing me the ball there. I'm going to try to echo the joy and the mirth. Happy birthday, Dad. You've known me for most of my life, as you're fond of saying, and I've known you for most of mine, I suppose. And in that time, I know you just recently published this book called Finding Your Voice, but I sort of feel like from the time I was very little and growing up with you, going on lots of long car rides to baseball games and other things like that, I've always felt that you have been helping me find my voice for my whole life. So, or at least the part of my life that I've known you, which is most of it. So I want to thank you for that. And to those of you who are in attendance today, I hope that you can also feel that and find that in my father's work. So thank you all very much, and happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!